Well, today is June 21st, 2016, and we are interviewing Andrew Johnson at Taylorville, Illinois. Mr. Johnson is 55 years old, having been born on July 24th, 1960. My name is Sue Burkholder, and I will be the interviewer. Mr. Johnson, for the recording, would you please tell us what branch of service you served and during what time period?
I served in the U.S. Army, and I was in from January 9, 78 to January 8 of 81.
All right, thank you. Let's start by going back and can you tell us a little bit about where and when you were born?
I was born in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago, the county hospital, and since then I grew up, and my mom we moved to the south side. Moved from the south side, and I was over there from the south side. I went to school. I went to grammar school at Matthew A. Henson. And when I moved to the south side, I went to D.S. Wentworth for grammar school, and then I went to Parker High School. I graduated from Parker, and I went in the service. I went straight to the service from out of high school.
Okay. Before we get into your service, could you just tell us a little bit about, you talked about your mother and maybe what was her occupation, and did you have siblings, and if you did, their names and a little bit about them?
Yes, I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters. I'm not the oldest and I'm not the youngest. And of course, I spent a lot of time with my family. You know, we grew up together. You know, first it was all of us in one big house. Now, you know, I traveled around the world a little bit before I was in the service. I was in this program where me and my brothers and sisters went in. My oldest brother, which is, he has a business now, someone I can look up to, and I got another oldest brother that's down in Memphis. And my sister, she's a nurse, and then come me. And then I have another brother up under me. And he works at John Hancock as a doorman. And and he also has a job driving a Pace bus. You know, my mother brought us up as being people that get along with anyone. And my other sister, she's a nurse. And then I have another brother that's a pastor of his own church right now today. And I have a brother that you know works. He works, and he has my baby brother has almost every degree that you can get. You know, which it makes me proud to talk about it. And you know, my mom, she worked a 5-day-a-week job, you know, to support us, doing whatever it took. And I mean, my dad, he passed away when I was young. So, you know, my mother was a mother that brought us up by herself most of the time. And I have a stepfather. And I mean, he taught us the ins and outs of life, giving us a better perspective on being responsible when we get older.
So, what caused you to decide that you wanted to join the military?
Well, I was in high school, and when I was the recruiters came to the schools. Excuse me. The recruiters came to the school, and they was interviewing people, and I was one of the people that they talked to. And when they talked to me, it was like in '78 before I got ready to graduate, and they asked me, it was in '77, excuse me, and they asked us, you know, a lot of people, how do we feel about going in the service, and they told us a lot about the traveling and the enjoyment that you can get out of it in education. And I said, you know, yeah, maybe I'd like to do that. And I went down to the office and I talked to a recruiter. And the recruiter said, you know, he talked to me and explained to me, and he asked me about where would I like to go if I was to go in the service. I said, oh, I'd like to go somewhere where it's hot all year round. And I said, okay. So I said I'd like to go to Hawaii. He said, that's not bad. And, you know, when I came back to see him later on, you know, he asked me, you know, did I make up my mind on what I wanted to do? And I told him, yeah, I wanted to go in the service. Cause if I hadn't went in the service, I figured later on down the line, I'll be growing up into some trouble or something. I never been in a gang or anything like that, and I didn't want to get in one.
So you joined the Army, and where did you have your first your basic training?
My basic training was in Mount Sterling. It was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And it was, when I went there, okay, I left straight out of high school going in the service, and I was 17. My mom had to sign the papers for me. She didn't want to sign the papers. She didn't want me to go in. But my stepfather told her, you know, she might as well go ahead and let me go in, because I'll make 18 and I'll be able to go anyway. So I went in, and when I went in the service, I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and it was one of the greatest experiences I ever experienced, because I remember during the time at basic training, how the drill sergeant was always on us, you know, like telling us that he's our mother, he's our father, and this and that we need to push forward to doing what we needed to do. And I was saying to myself that my mother would never believe the things that I'm doing, low crawling in mud and stuff with the weapon over my arms. That was a different experience.
What was your most memorable event or something that happened during basic training?
I would say, going to the range. I really enjoyed going to the range, you know, shooting the weapons, because I never really shot a weapon before. And they was teaching me how to aim it, fire, and hit the targets. It was something exciting, and I really enjoyed that part.
And did you make friendships during basic training?
Yeah, I met a lot of friends. You know, people from all around the world. That was something, you know, like I said, it was a different experience. You know, but I'm more or less like a person that listens instead of doing a lot of talking. So I let people talk and I just listen to them to get to know them a little bit better and understand it. You know, it was just basic training. Everybody was afraid and didn't know if we was doing things right or didn't know if we was doing things wrong. But, you know, we dealt with it on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, when you completed basic training, did you go on and receive advanced training?
Yes, I did. I went to AIT in Fort Benning, Georgia. And I went to Georgia And okay, we graduated first in Fort Leonard Wood, and then when we went from Fort Leonard Wood, I graduated and I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. And in Fort Benning, Georgia, it was a little bit different from being in Fort Leonard Wood because it's more advanced. Like I was a private, and I went from a private to a private E2. Okay, whereas that I had a stripe then. And now, when I'm in basic, you're just doing the basic things, but now you have to remember the things that you did in basic training and AIT. And you know, from there, they give you the opportunity to progress further and go to Airborne Ranger and stuff like that. I was gonna go to the Ranger School, but as I said, when I got in, I was 17 years old. I had never been away from home, so it was a different experience for me. So I decided not to take the Ranger training, and I mean, it was real interesting. We did a lot of, when I was in Georgia, the weather was a lot different than the climate in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, because it was a little colder there in Leonard Wood, but then in Georgia it was hot. In the hot weather, it was a different experience. You know, the low crawling in the sand and stuff, or the dirt. There were fire ants. I couldn't believe. You know, I've seen guys. It was something that was exciting, and it shocked me was when they explained to us about these ants and all this. And a couple of guys got bit by some ants, and then you know they try to tell you what to do, how to react when you being bit by them. And snakes out there. That was an experience that I never experienced. I mean, rattlesnakes, all kinds of different snakes. That was something different for me to really experience then when I was in my AIT training.
And how did you feel about the snakes and the fire ants and the unknowns like that? How did you feel about that when you were there?
Well, it was, I mean, it's like I say, it's a transitional thing that you had to go through. Okay, and I'm experiencing these things and learning a lot more. And you know, and at the same time, they let you know the things about these snakes and about these ants. And of course, I forgot to tell you about the spiders. Okay, now there are different spiders and stuff. And they say, okay, now the snakes, okay, we go in the field and they tell us to take our boots off because we do a lot of road marching. And you know, we get blisters on our feet and everything, but they said when you take your shoes off, before you put your shoes back on in the morning, always shake them, because the snakes, they go in your boots for the warmth and try to keep warm. So and the spiders do the same things. And then it was a lot of stuff, and it's different because it's starting to come back to me. And there was also the scorpions I forgot to tell you about. They said they go in your boots too to keep you warm, and then they explain to you that if you're bitten by them, how to react and what to do. And it was, it was amazing. Like I said, it was a transitional thing going from basic training to AIT, where you're moving up, and they let you know all these different things. If you experience it, what you need to do for it.
So it sounds like you were adapting then and changing as you learned new information.
Yes.
So one other question about basic training. How was the like the food and the social life part of that?
The food was okay. It wasn't like mama's home cooking. That's for sure. It was enough to get you by. And then I can't forget the rashes that they give you. Like sometimes you get a hot meal and sometimes you didn't. Okay, and like when you go out to the field, you may get one hot meal during the whole time while you're out there, and you really look forward to that hot meal, because your rations, they're in a box. They call them C rations. And you have, I mean, everything is in like a sealed pack. You have crackers, chocolate candy, and at this time they had the cans where you had a P38 to open up the cans, and you know, you might have a beef stew. You know, they had the beef stew, they had tuna, they had Franks and beans, and all these here different foods you get. You don't get to pick your rations. They just give you a ration, you know, for your meal, you know, and then like during the evening time, mostly at the end of the day, we'll get a hot meal, and we all look forward to that.
Okay, when you left AIT, then where did you go on? What job assignment did you go to?
When I left AIT, I had an option to go to my permanent party from AIT or go home for a vacation, a 30-day visit. And I went back to Chicago for 30 days. And from Chicago, I flew straight to Hawaii. And I mean, it was a flight, I mean, like it was a never-ending flight. It was about 7-8 hours, so you know, we got to eat on the plane, look at a movie. Now this was really a different experience for me because I've never been on a plane before, besides when I was a little boy. I had a godfather, he took me on a 747 before, you know, so, but besides that, I left, did my 30 days at home, and I went straight to Hawaii from Chicago, and I really enjoyed the flight and everything. And when I got there, the Hawaiian culture, they greeted me with open arms, with rolled flowers, putting them around your neck and stuff, you know, and they welcome you here in Hawaii.
Did you live in like base housing then on Hawaii, like in barracks?
Yes, I stayed in the barracks, Schofield Barracks. It was okay, Schofield Barracks, I don't know if you know about it, but that's where the Pearl Harbor was bombed. And on one side is a different regiment, and on the side that I was in Charlie Wolfhounds, and the other side was Cat Tie, where they were mortars. But I stayed on post, and it was, you know, I stayed in they had 2-man rooms, and they had 4-man rooms, and they had 3-man rooms. And fortunately, I got to stay in all 3 of them at one point in time. I was staying in the 2-man room at one point, and then I moved from the 2-man room. I guess they move you in these here rooms like this here to see how you can adapt to dealing with other people. You know, I was in a room with 2 more other guys. One guy was from New York, and another guy was from Meadville, Pennsylvania. His name was Scott. I was pretty good. We was good friends, you know what I mean? I got to know these guys, you know, as if they were my own brothers. And, you know, we talked about a lot of different things, our hometowns and everything, and we really enjoyed, you know, being there. You know, and like the dorms that we were in, as I said, there were 2 bedrooms, there was 3 bedrooms, and there were 4 bedrooms. After I moved from the 3-bedroom, I went to a 4-bedroom. And it was me, me, another black guy, and two more other guys. And each one of them was from somewhere different. One guy was from Chicago, another guy was from New York, and I can't quite remember where the other guy was from. But it was a great experience. We all, we lived in the room, we had to clean, we had chores that we had to do. And it was, something unique, and I really enjoyed it,
So, what was your job in Hawaii?
Well, my job, when I first got there, I was just a gunner. I had an M16, and I was just, it's like 6 or 7 people in the squad, and I was a gunner for a period of time. By then, I had got a promotion to a PFC, a private first class, which is a rocker and a stripe at the top. And I, and from being a gunner, I moved my way up in the line in different positions. I was a grenadier, which is a M16 that shoots grenades, which they call a grenade launcher. And I went from that to being an assistant gunner for the 60, and from the 60 assistant gunner, I became the 60 gunner. Was a big machine gun, and I carried when I was assistant gunner, I used to carry the spare barrel, tripod, and the ammo and stuff. Stuff to keep, working. These are different positions in the squad that you had to play, and I went from that position to an RTO, which is a radio transmitting operator, and I was working for the lieutenant, and I carried the radio, and my job was to call for fire, like when we go out to the field, and if we were at war, I would be the person that give them the grid and the coordinates to drop these bombs in. And you have to be very precise about it, because if you don't, you could have them dropping bombs on your crew, and you didn't want that to happen.
So, how long were you in Hawaii, and then where did you transition to from Hawaii?
Oh, I was in Hawaii for 2.5 years, and during my 2.5-year tour over there, I traveled to various places. I went to the Philippines, which it was 115 degrees in the shade. That was something I would never would have thought of. And it was amazing, because for it to be somewhere hot like that in the shade, and then I got there by riding on a ship, the USS Cleveland, and that was a whole new experience for me too. I saw flying fishes, and people say fish don't fly. Well, I'm here to tell you they do. And we looked at movies on the ship. They had APCs at the bottom. APCs are a type of tank that can ride on the water with soldiers in it to go to the land to get to an attack if you're going on the shore somewhere. And the ship had big guns on it. It was all right. It was a great experience. Small spaces for you to sleep in. So if they call for you in the morning, you got to be careful when you get up, because you hit your head on it, on the top bunk. And it was something that I had never would have thought I would experience. And I also traveled to Korea. Okay, and Korea was a bit different. But I forgot, in the Philippines, they have pesos, and the pesos are nothing but $1 American. 7 of their dollars is one of our dollars. And it's something that, you know, that I never would have experienced if I hadn't went in the service. And that was amazing. You know, I could take 5 of my dollars and give it to them, and they give me back about, I mean, I'm looking at a lot of dollars times 5. I mean, 7 times 7. And that was beautiful. You know, I never would have experienced that.
So, let's see, you've been to Guam. Where else did you go that you had talked about? Oh, New Zealand, and, oh yeah, and in Korea, you talked about, where were you near when you were in Korea?
Yeah, I was in Korea, and I was on right on the DMZ, as you know, and the DMZ stands for the Dead Man Zone. Okay, now you're not supposed to go anywhere near this line. It's a yellow line about a 12 feet square, and it goes straight across. If you go anywhere near this line, there are Koreans that are in a tower with shotguns, and if they shoot down at you and shoot you, you better pray that you fall on the side of Americans, because if you fall on the other side, you know, they can't. There's nothing they can do for you. And you know, I mean, it was a great experience. You know, something that, I mean, I could never believe. You know, the things that I saw. They had these here drinks. They call soul juice. It looks like water, but they tell you it's like embalming fluid. And they tell you when you go off post, don't leave without nobody. Always go paired up. It's I did a 30-day tour over there in Korea. I mean, I had you can get you some clothes tailored. I had clothes tailored while I was there. I had some jackets with the map of Korea on it, and the DMZ where we were, which was Camp Pagey. And as I sit here speaking to you today, a lot of people wouldn't know that they're at war every day. I mean, while we here, they're still at war. When you out in the field, it's you know, it's amazing. They like mama son bring ladies out to the field to try to have you date with them. But now the thing about that is, if you in the field and you date some of these ladies, you could catch a disease. And they go around carrying cards that are different colors: red, green, yellow, orange, and each one of these cards indicate if they have had their treatment for venereal diseases. And that's you know, that's something that was real unique. And I mean, you could walk down the street when you go off to camp, and you see people squatting using the bathroom right on the street where you're walking. I mean, that was something that I would have experienced, and it was amazing. And I mean, they look at you as if, you know, you ain't even there, and it was shocking.
When you were out and about, and your different countries and that, how was the contact with home? Was it, were you able to make phone calls, or was it mostly letter writing?
Well, when I'm out and about and traveling, it's just letter writing. It wasn't too much phone calling, cause it costs a bit of money when you're way over somewhere else. And you know, and there are different avenues that you have to go by to get on the phone and everything. So the only means of communication to your family is writing them by a letter. And you know, and they call, and when they call for mail, you in the field, you're in the field, and you know, there's nothing like hearing your name called to get a letter. You know, I mean, you could be out in the middle of nowhere and they, you know, mail call. It's peace and quiet. You out there and they just call your name, and you be glad to get that letter or two. Makes you feel good.
All right. Well, as you were kind of wrapping up your service, where was the last place you were at before you were left the service?
The last place I was at when I left the service was Guam. But before I went to Guam, I had went to New Zealand. And now in New Zealand, on the other side, New Zealand is on the other side of the earth, where, okay, here, steaks are expensive, but there, chicken is expensive, and steaks are like chicken. So we was eating steaks every day, and it was amazing, cause you know, I mean, and when it's summer here, it's winter there. I did, you know, and I learned how to ski a little bit. You know, I skied a little bit, you know, it snowed. And the place where we were staying at, it was like right where the Queen Square. You know, I mean, it was different. In New Zealand, they offer you their wives. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I mean, when I say they offer you their wives, okay, now they got these. You go to the clubs and you have a drink or something. You know, like on, you know, we EMs going out. You know, they love Americans. They really, they're crazy about American soldiers. And you get fish and chips. It is wrapped up in the newspaper with some French fries and like a whitey fish, you know, as we would call it, you know, Perch. And you go to the clubs and stuff, and when you know, like going to the clubs in the city or something, you know how a guy go to a lady and ask her to dance. When you go and ask her to dance, depending on who it is, she'll shy away from you. She'll be dancing with her girlfriend instead of dancing with the guy. And as I said, they give you their wife, they offer you their wives. Like you at the bar and you have a drink, a lady talking to you, and you know, you don't think she's married, but then the lady offer you to come home with her, and you know, and she introduced you to her husband. I'm like, excuse me, your husband? Yeah. I said, so he's gonna sleep on the couch. I'm like, okay. So it was kind of different. I'm not used to that, but I couldn't deal with it. So I let that go past me. You know, I wasn't experiencing that.
Was there anybody, like, because of your service in that, like, within your family or whatever, that was inspired to join the military?
Yes, I had one of my younger brothers. He went in the service, and he did reserve, National Guard, and he did a tour. He did a couple of tours. He was in the Gulf War and the Agent Orange. You know, he experienced it, you know, during his National Guard time, and And it, it was something different, because, like I said, my mom didn't want me to go. Now, this is one of my younger brothers next to the baby. You most definitely know she didn't want him to go. He didn't have to go. It was on a volunteer thing, and he went in the service, and, and it so happened to have been called to war. And he enjoyed it, and he got he caught some kind of virus when he was over there on the second tour. So he got out. But now, he's doing good. He's a pastor. And, I'm blessed to have him as my brother. And he enjoyed it.
Well, when you think back over your military service, is there a life lesson that you feel you learned that has stayed with you and in the time as you've been out of the service?
I would say yes. There's a life lesson that'll stick with me for the rest of my life. All the experiences that I had, all the many different people that I met, all the different places that I went. I could have never imagined the places that I went to. And then, I went to Guam. When I was in Guam, I experienced seeing that black fighter jet that hovers. There are some memories that I could have prepared myself for, that taught me a great deal of responsibility. And if I had a chance to go back today, I wouldn't hesitate to fight for my country, because there are so many different things that people don't get to see and don't understand about being a soldier. And it's really a great experience to know some of these are things that I have learned. And I wouldn't be a responsible adult as I am today if I hadn't went in the service. I might not have lived as long as I'm living, all because I went in the service. That's the experience that you carry with you to your grave.
Do you have any message that you would like to leave for the future generation who might see or hear your interview?
I would say, if you have the opportunity to get in the service, give it a try. Because there's a great adventure out there for you. That's all you have to do, is reach for it and want to do something better for your country. And I would say always take the chance of doing it. And I will go forward. And I would like for someone else to do the same for me.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time and agreeing to share your story. And thank you, sir, for your service to our country.
It's appreciated. Thank you very much.